Have you ever felt like no matter how much you love, you always end up in pieces? This question isn't just an echo in the silence of your mind. It's a wound many hide behind forced smiles, hugs that no longer have warmth, and words that seem empty. Rumi said, "Don't look outside for what can only be cured inside." And perhaps that's exactly where the deepest pain lies, when we believe that the love of another can mend our scars. But what happens is the opposite. Those scars open up even more. Today's topic is dark, it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. The 6 types of love that hurt more than hate, because sometimes it's not contempt or indifference that destroys the soul. It's love, distorted, suffocating, manipulative love. Love that doesn't liberate but imprisons. Love that doesn't heal but sickens. Love that doesn't illuminate but erases every trace of its essence. Have you ever noticed that some loves arrive disguised as care, but are actually invisible chains? Others present themselves as passion, but carry within them a consuming emptiness. Then there are those that seem tender, but in reality, ignore your existence, as if you weren't worthy of being seen. These are the loves that hurt, and hurt more than any open hatred, because hatred at least is clear, direct, cutting. These loves, however, infiltrate slowly, silently, until one day you look in the mirror and no longer recognize yourself. This video isn't about the idealized love of romantic poetry. It's about revealing the other side, the side no one likes to admit, but everyone has experienced in some way. The love that leaves you silent at night, staring at the ceiling, asking yourself, why do I settle for less than I deserve? Why do I keep holding on to something that hurts me more than it builds me? And maybe you're experiencing this right now. Maybe you love someone who doesn't see you. Maybe you miss someone who left you. Maybe you're still stuck in promises that were never fulfilled. Your heart wants to believe, insists on giving it another chance, but your soul is already tired. It no longer wants to fight an invisible enemy dressed in love. Rumi said that the heart needs to be broken before it opens. But have you ever considered that some breaks aren't lessons, but repetitions? The same cycle of pain, attachment, and abandonment. The same cycle of waiting for a love that never arrives whole. This is the prison we need to expose today. Because love, when it's true, never hurts the soul. What hurts is neediness, attachment, the illusion that we'll only be complete when someone loves us the way we dream. And as this expectation grows, what we find are the 6 types of love that don't just disappoint. They hurt more than any hate could. Have you ever felt like you were giving yourself completely, yet it still felt empty? Have you ever felt the weight of being with someone and still feeling alone? Have you ever believed beautiful words that, in the end, were just a disguise for manipulation? These are signs that you may have already been touched by one of these loves. And failing to recognize this can be the biggest mistake of your emotional life. The problem is that these loves don't arrive with a warning. They arrive as comfort, as a promise, as intensity, and only later do they reveal their true colors. Only later do you realize that that love wasn't strengthening you, but slowly consuming you. And maybe now you're wondering, what are these types of love? Have I experienced them all? Am I still stuck in any of them? This is the journey we'll take together, not to give you ready-made answers, but to open your eyes, your soul, and your courage to look at the truth you've been avoiding. Because this video isn't just about pain, it's about recognition. It's about realizing that what holds you back isn't love. It's about beginning to see what truly heals, what truly liberates, what truly connects. And before we move on to each of these 6 types of love that hurt more than hate, I want you to reflect and engage with me. Have you ever loved someone who deep down only made you bleed in silence? Write in the comments if this question touched your soul, because your story could be the mirror many need to avoid feeling alone. And perhaps as you listen to each word, you're remembering a face, a story, a pain that hasn't yet healed. It's at this point that I want you to pause for a moment and look within yourself. Because this video isn't just content to pass the time, it's a mirror. It's an invitation. It's your chance to recognize that you're not alone in this silent struggle against the loves that hurt. So before we move on, I want you to write in the comments, I deserve a love that doesn't destroy me. It's not just a phrase, it's an act of courage. It's declaring to yourself and to the world that you're ready to stop accepting what bleeds you silently. Your words are powerful. And when you record this phrase, you not only strengthen your soul but also inspire others who are experiencing the same dilemma and need this validation. And if this content has touched your heart so far, remember the importance of supporting this journey. When you like this post, you help this message reach other wounded souls who also need to hear it. When you subscribe to the channel, you're not just pressing a button, you're saying to yourself, I choose to continue this path of healing and awakening. It's a simple gesture, but one that has the power to transform not only your story, but also that of thousands who can identify with these words. So, leave your comment now, declare your truth, and strengthen this space. Like this video if it's already made you reflect. And subscribe so you don't miss the next parts of this journey, because each step from now on will clearly show you the 6 types of love that hurt more than hate, and how you can finally free yourself from them. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you is awakening. Perhaps it's the end of a cycle, or the beginning of a new path. And if these words touched your soul, then you already know. Pain is not your destiny. It's just the gateway to your liberation. Write in the comments, I refuse to bleed for those who don't know how to love. Declare this as a pact with your own healing, as a reminder that your soul deserves more. Subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of healing, awareness, and reconnection with your essence. Here, each video is a key, each word is a bridge, each silence is a mirror. If this video embraced you in any way, leave your like now, because this small gesture helps this message reach more souls who, like you, are ready to awaken. And now, watch the next video that is appearing on your screen, because the journey doesn't end here. It's just beginning, and you don't have to do it alone. I walk with you. Have you ever wondered why some loves hurt more than any contempt? This is the wound many try to hide, but which insists on revealing itself in the silence of the night, when no one is around to applaud its strength. The invisible problem is not open hatred, nor the cold rejection that shows its face without disguise. True torment arises when love, what should be shelter, becomes a prison. It's as if you give yourself completely, and in return receive only crumbs, broken pieces of a promise that is never fulfilled. And this is the silent dilemma so many souls carry, believing that the love they receive will heal, when in reality, it only imprisons them even more. It's the kind of love that doesn't allow them to breathe, that demands their total surrender without ever reciprocating. The love that dresses itself in care, but actually suffocates, erases, diminishes. How many times have you accepted this kind of love out of fear of being alone? How many times have you believed it was better to live trapped in something that hurts than to face the emptiness of being alone? This is the invisible problem. The inability to recognize that what we call love is often nothing more than a cycle of abandonment in disguise. When we talk about abandonment, we're not just talking about those who have left. There's an even crueler kind of abandonment, the kind that happens while the person is still present. It's the cold embrace, the gaze that doesn't meet yours, the presence that weighs more heavily than absence. To love and not be loved in return is perhaps one of the deepest pains of the soul because it wounds silently, leaving no visible marks. It's like bleeding inside while on the outside you keep smiling so as not to be discovered. Have you ever noticed how love can turn into silent rejection? Every time you give yourself and aren't seen, every time you wait for a simple gesture that never arrives, every time you feel your presence is tolerated but not celebrated. This is the kind of wound that builds up, layer upon layer, until you begin to believe you're not worthy of true love. Repeated rejection creates invisible scars that shape the way you see yourself. And without realizing it, you cling to relationships that don't nourish you, only drain your vital energy. Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you. But how can you let the light in when the wound never has time to heal? When with every attempt to love, you're relegated to the background, ignored, replaced, diminished? The pain of loving someone who doesn't love you back is one of the greatest paradoxes of the human heart. Because even knowing that this love doesn't nourish you, you keep insisting. You keep believing that one day you'll change. You keep holding on to the chains that bind you, as if they were threads of hope. And the truth is, this invisible problem isn't just relational, it's spiritual. It touches on the root of what you believe you deserve. If at some point in your life, you learned that you're only worthy when you give too much of yourself, you'll repeat this pattern in every relationship. If at some point in your history, You internalized rejection as part of your identity. You'll unconsciously seek out people who confirm that pain. And this is what turns love, instead of healing, into poison. But there's something no one usually says. The love that imprisons exists only because you haven't yet learned to free yourself from it. It's hard to hear, but it's necessary, because the invisible problem isn't just in the other person. It's also in the space you give up. It's in the silence you accept. It's in the justifications you create for someone who was never truly there for you. Loving someone who doesn't reciprocate is to continue begging for a look, when, in truth, your soul cries out for a true encounter. And maybe you're experiencing exactly that right now. Maybe you're still waiting for that message that never arrives. Maybe you still believe that one day he or she will realize how much you're worth. Maybe you're losing yourself in a love that doesn't acknowledge your existence. And deep down you know it's not love, but you still can't let go. This is the knot that binds so many souls. The illusion that loving too much is enough to make the other person love you back. The invisible problem is precisely this: believing that pain is synonymous with love, believing that absence is a test of endurance, believing that humiliation is just a price to pay for someone's company. How many times have you wondered if you were the problem? How many times have you believed that if you changed, if you were prettier, thinner, calmer, anything, you would finally be loved? But the truth is, no matter how much you mold yourself, no matter how much you sacrifice, if the other person doesn't see it, they never will. And it's in this silence that your soul screams, a scream you might not let out, but one that echoes in every cell of your body. Because the love that imprisons leaves deep scars, scars that go beyond the relationship itself. They shape the way you trust, the way you surrender, the way you see yourself. This is the true invisible problem. It's not just about losing someone. It's about losing yourself while trying to be enough for someone who will never notice. And I want you to reflect now and answer honestly. Has it ever happened to you to give of yourself until there was nothing left and still not be seen? If this question touched your soul, leave the phrase in the comments. I no longer accept the love that erases me. It's not always hate that destroys. What leaves the greatest mark on the soul are the distorted forms of love, those that appear to be caring but hide a slow, silent poison. It's as if we were sipping a glass of sweet wine and without realizing it, each sip was poisoning our heart. The love that hurts, doesn't scream, doesn't threaten, doesn't immediately show its teeth. It seeps into the small concessions, the constant renunciations, the promises that are never kept. Little by little, you become accustomed to believing that love is pain, that loving is breaking into pieces and still smiling. Rumi said, "You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens." And this phrase carries a painful truth, that the heart, in its fragility, needs to be shattered until it finally learns to open to something greater than illusion. The spiritual root of this problem is deeper than we think. It's not just about relationships gone wrong. It's about the unconscious that carries old patterns, silent memories, wounds that have never been addressed head-on. It's as if, at some point in your life, you learned that you weren't worthy of being loved fully. Maybe it was in childhood, when the hug you needed never arrived. Maybe it was in a significant relationship when someone who claimed to love you turned their back on you when you needed it most. And ever since, your soul has sought to repeat the same scene, as if to prove something to itself. This time it will be different, this time I can do it. But the truth is, repetition only deepens the emptiness. The human heart has a dangerous tendency. It clings to what is familiar even when it hurts. You may know rationally that this love isn't good for you, but you still hang in there, hoping for a different outcome, as if you could transform abandonment into presence, rejection into acceptance, silence into words of affection. And while you persist, you forget something essential. The problem isn't just with the other person, but with the invisible root that still sustains your choices. This root is spiritual, because it doesn't just speak of feelings, it speaks of destiny, of a soul's mission, of a learning process that seems to repeat itself until you understand it. The pain you feel today isn't isolated, it's a reflection of emotional patterns that repeat themselves like an echo within you. Notice how certain situations seem to recur, even in different contexts. You move cities, change partners, change routines, but deep down you experience the same feeling: emptiness, lack, and lack of reciprocity. This happens because life, through distorted love, tries to show you what hasn't yet healed. like a wound you cover, but which insists on bleeding. The spiritual root of suffering isn't what the other person does to you, but what your soul still accepts, because it believes it deserves less than fulfillment. Rumi said that the heart needs to be broken until it opens. Perhaps this is the explanation for so much repeated pain. It's not about punishment, but about learning. Each time your heart breaks, you have the chance to look within and realize, I can't go on living like this. But most people don't heed this call. They prefer to believe it was bad luck, that it was the other person's fault, that it was just fate. And so the cycle repeats itself, until one day you finally understand that it's not love that hurts, but the distorted way of calling attachment, neediness, and fear love. The spiritual root is always an invitation to truth. It asks, why do you keep accepting less? Why do you keep begging for attention? Why do you insist on loving someone who has never truly seen you? These questions are hard, but necessary, because until you face them, you will remain trapped in the invisible cycle that destroys not only your relationships, but your very self-image. This is where many get lost. They mistake intensity for love, dependence for surrender, silence for peace. But the heart knows deep down that something is wrong. And perhaps right now you're feeling this restlessness, this feeling that something inside you is crying out for liberation, but you don't yet know how to answer that call. It's the spiritual root manifesting, asking you to look within and realize that the pain didn't come to punish you, but to show you where imprisonment still exists. In every rejection, every abandonment, every silence, there's a hidden message, that you need to free yourself from the patterns that accept crumbs as if they were banquets. When love hurts more than hate, it's not because it's true love. It's because you still confuse chains with bonds, imprisonment with care, possession with affection. This is the spiritual root that needs to be exposed, because until you see it, you'll keep repeating the same stories, attracting the same faces with different names, experiencing the same pain as if it were inevitable. And I want you to reflect with me now. Have you ever looked in the mirror and no longer recognized who you are, because you lost yourself trying to be enough for someone else? If this question resonated deep within you, write the phrase in the comments. I recognize the root of my pain. What no one told you is that not all love is healing. Some are invisible chains that disguise themselves as comfort, but in reality imprison the soul and make it forget who it truly is. This is the revelation few want to hear, because it requires courage to admit that many of the relationships we call love are nothing more than sophisticated prisons, slowly constructed webs of need, fear, and illusion. Most people believe that any form of togetherness is better than being alone, and that's exactly where pain arises, when we mistake companionship for love, when we accept the other's burden as if it were a hug, when we surrender our freedom believing it is surrender. True love never hurts the soul. What hurts is illusion, disguised attachment, the fear of loss masquerading as dedication. How many times have you told yourself you had to endure, that you had to accept, that it was normal to suffer to keep someone by your side? This silent belief has destroyed more hearts than any open hatred. Because hatred is direct, it's clear, it doesn't mask itself. Distorted love, however, is treacherous. It makes you believe you need to sacrifice yourself, that you need to lower your voice, that you need to carry the burden of two for the relationship to survive. And as you do this, your soul fades little by little, until one day you no longer know if it's you or just a shadow of what you once were. The hidden key to breaking this cycle isn't in the other person, it's in you. It's in your ability to realize that love isn't a prison, it's not a negotiation, it's not a bargaining chip. Love doesn't demand your essence in exchange for companionship. Love doesn't demand your freedom as proof of loyalty. Love doesn't put chains on your spirit. When there's imprisonment, there's no love. When there's suffocation, there's no truth. When there's manipulation, there's no surrender. This is the invisible line we need to learn to see. What differentiates love from prison is the freedom it offers. But what happens is that, often, you were taught to believe that pain is a natural part of the process of loving. Perhaps you saw your parents living this way. Perhaps you grew up hearing that love is sacrifice, that relationships are struggles, that happiness is a luxury. This emotional inheritance takes deep root and makes you accept chains as if they were bonds of tenderness. The hidden key lies in breaking this silent programming. It lies in understanding that you don't need to lose yourself to keep someone, that you don't need to be silent to be accepted, that you don't need to live in constant fear of loss to prove your love. And here lies a truth that hurts but liberates. Often, what you call love is just a reflection of the fear of being alone. And this fear is powerful, because it convinces you that it's better to be imprisoned than to feel the silence of loneliness. But loneliness, when faced, can be the beginning of healing, while the love that binds will always be an extension of your pain. The hidden key, therefore, is to clearly differentiate between love and prison. Love is space. Love is expansion. Love is a presence that doesn't suffocate. Love is a gaze that welcomes, a silence that soothes, a companionship that adds to the effort. Prison is pressure. It's blackmail. It's manipulation. Prison is absence disguised as presence. Prison is affection that only exists when you obey. Prison is care that weighs heavily, an embrace that holds, a word that wounds while claiming to love. Perhaps you're hearing all this and recognizing patterns in your own life. Maybe you remember a relationship where you believed you were loved, but deep down you were being controlled. Maybe you're still in a relationship today where the price of companionship is self-abnegation. If this resonates within you, don't ignore it. This could be your chance to finally see that you don't need to continue carrying invisible chains. Rumi said that the heart needs to be broken before it opens. The hidden key lies in this opening. It's not about breaking to lose yourself, it's about breaking to free yourself. When you finally understand that true love never hurts the soul, but always expands it, you begin to see the difference between what builds you and what destroys you. And until you make this distinction, you will continue to call prison love, continue to call pain surrender, continue to call silence peace. And I want to ask you a question now, so you can reflect and record your truth. Have you ever realized you were trapped in something that seemed like love, but deep down was just fear of being alone? If this question spoke to you, write the sentence in the comments. I choose the love that sets me free. Now that we've unlocked the hidden key, we need to look at something even deeper and more uncomfortable. The 6 types of love that hurt more than hate. They don't arrive announcing destruction. They don't knock on the door of your soul saying, I've come to imprison you. On the contrary, they arrive as a promise, as warmth, as companionship, and that's precisely why they're so dangerous. Before you know it, you're already living in a bond that doesn't nourish but consumes, and it takes courage to recognize each of these distorted forms of love, because you may often be trapped in one of them without admitting it to yourself. The first is the love that suffocates. It disguises itself as care, zeal, and excessive attention. At first, someone who is always concerned about you, someone who wants to know every detail of your life, someone who is present at every moment, seems charming. But over time, this presence ceases to be affection and transforms into an invasion. What should be freedom becomes surveillance. What should be support becomes suffocation. A love that suffocates leaves no room for your breath, doesn't respect the silence of your soul, doesn't allow you to flourish as an individual. It imprisons you in the name of supposed care. And you, little by little, begin to lose yourself in the feeling that, to be loved, you must give up your own autonomy. Then comes the love that ignores. This is perhaps one of the cruelest, because it hurts silently. It's when you scream, but the other person never hears. When you speak, but your voice is lost in the void. When your pain is invisible to the one who should be your safe haven. The love that ignores is physical presence and emotional absence. It's being by someone's side and at the same time feeling alone. It's looking at the person you love and realizing they're somewhere else. In their mind, in their heart, in their soul. This love doesn't need harsh words to hurt, because silence is enough. And few things weigh more heavily than feeling invisible within a relationship that should be welcoming. The third is the love that controls. It doesn't present itself as a prison right away. It begins with small demands, small adjustments, small demands. Don't use that. Don't talk to that person. Don't do it that way. And without realizing it, you shape your life to fit within what the other person considers acceptable. Your freedom becomes seen as a threat, your desires as selfishness, your individuality as a risk. The love that controls is never satisfied because it constantly needs to reduce the other person to feel safe. It's a love that doesn't know how to live with difference and that confuses power with affection. Little by little, you no longer know what is your choice and what is the other person's imposition. The fourth is the love that abandons, perhaps one of the most painful, because it mixes presence and absence, hope and frustration. It's the kind of love that promises to be by your side but always finds a way to be absent. It's the kind that says, "I love you," but doesn't show up when you need it most. The love that abandons is unstable, a constant game of partial presence. You never know if you can count on it, never know if you can lean on it, never know if the other person will truly be there when the weight is too great. Absence speaks louder than any words, and you, trying to fill this void, end up drowning in expectations that are never met. The fifth is the love that manipulates. It turns affection into currency, affection into a tool of control. It's the kind of love that offers you presence but demands it. It's the kind that only gives you attention when you respond to its demands. It's the kind of love that withdraws affection as a form of punishment, that uses silence as a weapon, that uses sweet words only to convince you to give in. This love is dangerous because it makes you believe you need to earn what should be natural. It makes you feel eternally indebted, as if every act of love were a favor granted. Manipulation in this kind of love isn't obvious at first, but over time it reveals itself as one of the most suffocating forms of imprisonment. And finally, the sixth, the love that deceives. This is perhaps the most treacherous, because it's not based on what is, but on what could be. It's when you fall in love with the promise, not the reality. It's when you believe in the potential, not the present. The love that deceives thrives on idealizations, imagined futures, dreams that never come true. You cling to the hope that one day things will be different, that one day the person will change, that one day things will fall into place. And while you wait for that day, you lose today, you lose yourself, you lose the sparkle in your life. The love that deceives is the sweetest poison because it keeps you trapped not in what exists, but in what may never exist. These 6 types of love are the ones that hurt more than hate, because hate is clear, direct, and evident. But these loves are silent, camouflaged, entangled in words of affection and gestures of false tenderness. They corrode slowly, without you even noticing. And when you finally do, you're already broken inside, exhausted, and no longer know how to be whole again.
And now I want to invite you to reflect. Which of these 6 loves have you experienced? Which of them left marks on your soul that you still carry? If one of these descriptions spoke directly to you, leave a comment. I already recognize the love that hurts me. You are not defined by the love that hurt you. You are the silent space that survived it. This is perhaps one of the hardest revelations to accept, because pain leaves scars, and we often confuse ourselves with them.
You look at yourself and see only what was broken, what was lost, what was ripped from your soul. But if you look more closely, you'll realize there's something even stronger than the scars. Your ability to resist, your silent courage to carry on. The shift in consciousness happens when you understand that it's not the wound that defines you, but what you choose to do with it. For a long time, you may have believed you were fragile, dependent, and incapable of living without that hurtful love. But remember, you survived. Every tear that fell, every night you felt empty, every time you begged for a gesture that never came, in all these moments you thought you couldn't bear it. And yet, here you are. This is proof that you are stronger than you imagine. The hurtful love tried to erase you, but it couldn't. Abandonment tried to silence you, but you still speak. Rejection tried to diminish you, but your soul continues to cry out for expansion. Rumi said, "Don't be content with stories of how things happen to others. Awaken your own legend." This phrase is a powerful invitation because it shows that your life doesn't have to be a reflection of the pain you've experienced. You are not condemned to repeat the same cycles, to relive the same imprisoning loves, to forever carry the same ghosts. You have the power to awaken a new story, to transform every pain into wisdom, every loss into freedom, every tear into strength. A shift in consciousness begins when you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a survivor. It's not denying the pain. It's not pretending it didn't hurt. It's recognizing that despite everything, you're still standing. And that's a miracle in itself. Hatred couldn't destroy you. Distorted love couldn't erase you. And that means there's a strength within you greater than any abandonment. It's this strength that needs to be awakened. The problem is that most people get used to living within pain. They create identities from it. They define themselves by rejection, abandonment, and unrequited love. But you don't have to cling to these stories. You can honor them, learn from them, and move forward. Consciousness awakens when you understand that you don't have to carry invisible chains. When you realize that what seemed like the end can actually be the beginning of something new. And perhaps you're wondering now, how do we transform pain into awakening? The first step is to stop fighting it. Suffering only persists when you resist going through it. When you accept seeing your pain as a teacher rather than an enemy, it begins to reveal what you didn't yet know about yourself. Abandonment teaches you about inner presence. Rejection teaches you about self-worth. Manipulative love teaches you about limits. Every wound holds a key to transformation, but only those who have the courage to face them can access this secret. You are not the pain. You are the one who survived it. This phrase may sound simple, but it holds immense power. Because when you shift your focus, when you stop looking only at what you've lost and start seeing what you've gained in strength, something inside you awakens. It's like lighting a flame in the darkness. And this flame begins to illuminate everything that was hidden. Your worth, your dignity, your ability to start over. There's nothing more liberating than realizing you no longer have to repeat the same story. That you can choose differently. That you can love differently. That you can live differently. This shift in consciousness doesn't happen in a single moment, but in every decision you make from now on. Decisions that say, I no longer accept invisible chains. Decisions that affirm, I recognize my strength. Decisions that declare, I deserve the love that expands, not the one that suffocates. Rumi also said that the wound is the place where the light enters you. This is the key to awakening. Pain didn't come to destroy, but to make room for something greater. Rejection didn't come to nullify you, but to show you that you are already whole. Abandonment didn't come to shatter you, but to teach you to stand on your own 2 feet. When you understand this, pain stops being a burden and becomes a bridge. And I want you to allow yourself to reflect now. Have you ever looked back and realized that what seemed like the end was actually the beginning of your transformation? If this question spoke to you, write the sentence in the comments. I awaken through my pain. If you've made it this far, to the end of this video, it means something within you has awakened. And I want to tell you one final truth. The soul's journey doesn't end with pain, it begins there. Rumi reminds us that the wound is where the light enters. And if these words spoke to your soul, then you already know you are not alone on this path. So I want to invite you to take one more step. Subscribe to the channel now to continue this journey with me. Each new video is another piece of this spiritual puzzle, another breath of healing, another key to your liberation. If you stayed until the end, please leave a like, not just as support, but as a sign that you are choosing to continue this transformation. Now don't stop here. The next video is already appearing on your screen. Continue the journey, because the pain was just the beginning and healing is already calling your name.